So what this process is called Theory U, and it's developed by the Presencing Institute. So this is kind of our roadmap or our journey for our time together. So it says Theory U up here if you can't see it, and we'll post this on the wall so you can come and take a look later. The Theory U, the U journey that we are on, begins with the phase of co-initiating, which was really the theme of yesterday evening, co-initiating, getting to know one another. We had an opening circle, we had a land acknowledgement from Canyon. We also got to know a little bit of each other in small groups where we shared a little bit of why are we each here and why are we here? And we also shared a few questions that we're carrying or questions that are emerging. So this is the kind of co-initiating phase. This morning we're going to move into co-sensing, really staying open mind and open heart, really sensing into using all of our senses, using our bodies, our somatic awareness, into what this group is and what wants to emerge, and hearing a few stories of places that are doing ecosystem restoration work, and looking for sources of inspiration, for threads, for points of potential for us as a group. And then this afternoon, we're going to move into presencing, just as we just did with a moment of silence together. This technology really opens us to presencing and really sensing into the future, sensing into what wants to emerge. So instead of just directly coming from the past and going into action, there'll be a moment of silence, there'll be a moment of time in nature for us to really presence, to then see what wants to emerge together. And then tomorrow morning, we're moving into co-creating. So that's that time where we move from the bottom of the U up the side of the U into crystallizing, starting to see what forms are starting to emerge. Not moving directly into forms we already know, but allowing for that collective intelligence, collective wisdom, and also the potential for something we may not have ever expected to arise. And then post time here, because we're building a movement. This is hopefully not just a one weekend thing, but we're hoping to co-evolve together so that something from this keeps moving out of this U into new forms and iterations and prototypes and relationships and connections throughout the world and California. So Theory U, as I mentioned, is a really good technology because it allows us to not just move into action and doing, but it really brings in that being quality for us to practice this being together. This, how can we be the new world that we want to see? And then we also will move into action from that deeper space. As I mentioned too, this is a new form of leadership. This is really trying to access our collective intelligence, our collective wisdom. As you see, there's co-initiating, co-sensing, co-creating. So it's really moving from ecosystem leadership to ecosystem leadership. So this idea that we're moving from ego to eco, we're trying to work with all the intelligence and all the wisdom that's in this space, that's in this room. So as I mentioned yesterday, we gathered, we were in co-initiating, started with an opening circle, land acknowledgement, introductions, a little rain activity to celebrate the rain that we're having. Then we went into dinner, and then after dinner we broke up into small groups and shared a little bit about why are we here and what questions are we carrying. And I want to share a couple of themes from that time that I pulled out for the good of those folks who are joining us today. One of the themes that I heard was a deep love and connection with the more than human world, with the natural world. People shared from stories of their childhood or more recent stories of gratitude for the living earth that we are a part of, a sense of our ecological self, our wider body, and our deep love and care and appreciation for this planet. We also heard about pain. We heard about people who shared their sense of urgency, their sense of sorrow, of despair, their sense of there's something not quite right, there's something that I'm feeling called to act on behalf of. So we heard about that, and we heard, a lot of times we heard people say, I'm feeling a call to be here, a call to act, a call for co-creative action. We also heard, though, that we want that action, that co-creative action, to be joyful and fun. Joy was a word that came up often in those conversations. And then there was also a moving into questions around livelihoods, questions around action, around how to manifest. And I think beneath those questions are questions around balancing. How do we continue to balance being and doing, rest and action? How can we meet our needs while doing our important work that we're feeling called to do? So these were a few of the themes that came out. This is just my interpretation. There's many other stories that emerge. And I urge you to check out this wall here, because this was our space where we tried to capture why are we here and what questions are emerging. And if you weren't here, you can please feel free to add your sticky notes and your questions there. We also have some pieces of paper back there for other ways of conversing, other ways of having dialogue. If we're missing a piece of paper that needs to be there, let's put it up. So again, what are we doing this morning? So we're moving into co-sensing. So for this morning, I really invite you to move into sensing. Observe, observe, observe. What are the points of potential that you're seeing emerge? What are the threads that you're noticing? What are the patterns? Where are you feeling called to? So we're going to do a somatic geography activity to sense into the California landscape. And we're also going to do some storytelling. So we have 4 storytellers who are going to share stories of ecosystem restoration in California and around the world. And again, the invitation is for sensing, co-sensing, to open, to be observant, and also to practice open heart and open mind. So to allow ourselves to be curious and to be open to what might emerge. So that's the plan for this morning. Before we move into this morning, I wanted to share a few community agreements to be able to create this journey together, this container of a community of care. Because as I mentioned, we're not just trying to move into being or move into doing, but we're trying to practice new ways of being, or we're trying to practice ways of being to create the world that we want to live in. So in order to create that community of care for ourselves, care for each other, care for the more than human world, I have a few community agreements to offer, to invite us into today. And as I go through them, if you're hearing something that's not there, if you're sensing that there's something that you want to bring to, then afterwards I'll invite those up as well. So for creating our culture of care, to invite our community agreements, the first one that I have is trust the process. Trust the process. So we're utilizing this U theory process, this process that doesn't move directly into action, that has these moments of presencing, that has these stages. So to trust the process that we will move into that action space tomorrow. We also have step up, step back. And what this one is to just notice yourself in relation to the whole as our concentric circles of self. We have ourself, we have our group body, and then we have our larger body. So when you are maybe speaking a lot, maybe when to take a step back to allow other voices. And maybe if you haven't said much and you would love to please feel invited to step in. And part of this comes with recognizing our privileges and who's in the space, and just allowing for an inclusive and co-creative space that feels safe and generative. Along with that, we have one person, one mic, so we are a large, lovely group. So we just want to stay with one person at a time speaking so that we can really hear from each other, and so that we can keep a slow pace for patience and for allowing what can emerge, so that everyone's on board with that. Open mind and open heart, that's in our listening, that's in our sharing. So just to really practice an openness, a beginner's mind, a curiosity, and a heartfulness in our sharing, in our listening, and in our time together. One of my favorite community agreements is called oopsies and ouchies. And what this one is just about is that seeing feedback as a gift and seeing our sharing with one another as important for our growing. So oopsies are maybe when you say something or do something that you want to acknowledge could have created harm or impacted someone in a negative way, to maybe just share, oopsies, I want to share, this may have impacted someone in this way, so that we can practice that humility and practice that sense of care. And then ouchies is a way of giving that feedback, of saying, when you mentioned this is how I was impacted. To just start to share so that we can be a more inclusive and greater culture of care together. And then lastly, I have brevity. So we have folks who've come from long, long places, and we have not so much group time together. So just practicing brevity with our speaking, so that we can really get to the essence. Are there any other ones that people are feeling a desire to put into the space this morning for our community agreements or culture of care? Yeah, do you want to say it in here?
I want to take advantage of us being all together like this. I work with an agency that organizes tours, and we sometimes have farmers, and I would like to be, it's French farmers or people like that, and I would like to be able to open up the space so that they don't go see just, the poor animals, thousands of them being milked and whatever, we've seen them driving up here, and see other places such as this one. We have people who would be interested in forests and forest management and things like that, so I'm just reaching out, so maybe some of you know somebody who can talk to them. It's like an hour's talk, and typically it's like in the Central Valley that we organize something like that. So I just want, it's a way of educating as well.
Okay, thank you. And we will have lots more space for comments and questions like that, bringing in our resources, our needs and offers. Are there any other community agreement invitations? Anyone have any specific thing that doesn't feel captured here? Yes, okay, come on up.
Just regarding the step up and step back in the brevity, I have seen in these kind of groups there are certain characters that do tend to go on longer or take up more space. And just wondering if we can think about a way to signal somebody if they are doing that, or some way to keep the flow going and give space for those who might not speak as freely.
Thank you. Yeah, so we definitely have some cards for the presentations to show, and then in our small groups, we might be using timer technology to support that. But of course, for me as the facilitator, I'll try to gauge that as well. But I really invite us all to be keepers of the heart, so to watch for the group space as well. And then silence and different technologies hopefully will allow for different voices to be heard and different iterations of sharing to happen. But thank you for that. We'll definitely note that. One more community agreement. Anyone?